You're in the middle of a sentence, and then your mind quietly slips away. Not slowly, not vaguely, not almost there. Just suddenly completely gone. The point was alive a second ago, and now it will not come back on cue. Someone is still looking at you, waiting like the thought never left at all. So you stall with a laugh or a pause, and hope the thread finds you again. And somehow that tiny blank moment feels bigger than it should ever feel. Because it is not just forgetting words. It is losing yourself in public. It makes you wonder how a mind can feel so full and still drop the line. But people who forget what they were saying are not empty-headed at all. There is usually something deeper happening beneath that sudden mental exit. What disappears in that moment is rarely the whole thought or the whole idea itself. What usually fails is the fragile mental thread that was holding it in active reach. Psychologists call this working memory, the short-term space that keeps things online. It is the mental desk where your brain places whatever it is using right now. And for some people, the desk is already crowded before the sentence even begins. They are holding the point, the next phrase, the listener, and their own tone, too. They are noticing reactions, adjusting words, and trying to sound clear as they speak. So the sentence is not moving through an empty mind, but through a loaded system. And when attention shifts even slightly, the main thread can fall out of position. Not because the person is slow or careless, but because the load was already high. Speech feels simple from the outside, but inside it is rapid coordination at work. You are thinking, selecting, editing, monitoring, and delivering all at the same time. That means one small interruption can collapse the bridge between thought and language. The idea may still exist somewhere in you, even when the wording disappears first. So, forgetting what you were saying is often overload in motion, not emptiness. And what makes that thread snap is often not distraction in the obvious sense. It is not always a loud noise or someone interrupting you halfway through a point. Sometimes the real interruption is your own awareness entering the room too fast. You notice their face change and suddenly start judging your words in real time. You wonder if you are making sense or speaking too long or sounding strange. The moment that self-monitoring begins, your attention splits straight down the middle. Part of you keeps talking while another part starts watching the performance itself. And that second part is expensive because attention can only stretch so far. The mind drops the original thread while trying to supervise how it is landing. So the thought does not vanish because there was nothing there to begin with. It vanishes because you stepped outside the sentence and started observing it. This happens a lot in people who are socially aware or quietly self-conscious. They are not absent from the moment, but too present in the wrong direction. Their focus shifts from the idea they meant to express to how they appear. And once image replaces thought, the sentence often loses its place completely. This happens especially often in people whose minds do not move in straight lines for very long. Some people do not think like a train on rails moving from one point neatly to the next point. They think more like a web where one idea touches 5 others before the sentence is even done. A word can trigger a memory, and that memory can trigger a feeling or a second hidden meaning. So while they are still speaking one thought, their mind has already opened 3 more doors. That kind of thinking can be rich, intuitive, creative, and emotionally alive all at the same time. But it can also make spoken language harder to hold in one clean, uninterrupted sequence. The original sentence gets outnumbered by the associations forming around it in real time. What looked like forgetting may actually be the mind generating too many linked directions at once. These people often remember patterns, moods, images, and meanings better than exact verbal order. They may lose the sentence, but still hold the emotional point they were trying to make. Their thinking is often layered, not empty, fast, not shallow and alive, not disorganized by default. The problem is not always that the thought was weak, but that it branched too quickly to hold. A mind that connects everything can struggle with the narrow task of staying on one track. So, forgetting the line may be less about lacking thought and more about having too much of it. But the hardest part is usually not losing the sentence itself, somewhere in the middle. It is the meaning people quietly attach to that blank space right after it happens. A small lapse becomes evidence that something about them must be off or unreliable. They do not just think I forgot the point. They think maybe I am not articulate enough. Maybe my mind is messier than other people's or slower where it matters the most. And because it happens in front of others, the feeling lands with more force than it should. The silence feels public, even when it only lasts a second or two at most. It can make a person seem less capable than they know they actually are inside. That creates a strange split between the clarity they feel and the version others receive. They know there was substance there, but they could not carry it across in time. So the frustration is not only cognitive, but deeply personal and quietly humiliating too. The mind feels full on the inside, yet incomplete the moment it reaches open air. That is why these lapses can linger emotionally long after the words themselves are gone. Not because the mistake was huge, but because the self-judgment around it was. And over time, the fear of blanking out can become worse than blanking out itself. Forgetting the sentence does not mean there was never a real thought behind it at all. It often means the thought was too alive, too layered, or too fast to survive performance. Inner thought happens in private, where ideas can stay unfinished without being under pressure. Speech is different because the mind must turn living thought into order while being watched. That translation is harder than people realize, and some minds feel that strain far more. A person can understand something deeply and still fail to hold the wording in place. They can feel the shape of the idea without keeping every step of it verbally intact. Some minds store meaning better than sequence and impressions better than exact phrasing. So, when the sentence falls apart, the intelligence behind it does not disappear with it. What disappears is the narrow spoken path, not the wider thought that gave rise to it. This is why some of the most reflective people sound uncertain while speaking aloud. Their mind is not empty, but crowded with more nuance than speech can carry at once. They are often trying to compress something large into a form that must move quickly. And under that pressure, even a strong thought can break before it fully arrives outside. So losing the line is not proof of an empty mind, but of a mind under translation. The best response in that moment is not panic, but space for the thought to return. Repeat the last phrase out loud, and often the thread begins rebuilding itself from there. Slow down enough to follow the meaning instead of chasing the exact missing wording. Because the point is often still inside you, even when the sentence itself has slipped. Over time, it also helps to speak with less pressure and less self-surveillance. A watched mind loses more words than a relaxed one allowed to move naturally. People who forget what they were saying are often thinking in layers, not lines. Their problem is rarely emptiness, but speed meaning and too much happening at once. The sentence may disappear in public, but the mind behind it is still fully there. If this kind of psychology speaks to you, subscribe for more videos like this.